Okay, now you're
Good evening and good day wherever you're watching. Hello Twitch chat, hello YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, and everywhere where you're watching. My name is Artie, and welcome to the first 007 First Light developer stream with a little FAQ. We have collected all the questions, or most of the questions, and found the right people to answer them. So, as per usual, I'm not alone on stream. I'm here, welcome, with 3 different colleagues. And I want to just ask to introduce yourself one by one. Why don't we start here?
Yes, hello, I am Andreas Krog. I'm the gameplay director on 007 First Light.
I am Dominic Vega. I am the audio director and missions director.
And hi, I'm Tian Smith. I am our licensing producer here at IO.
Wonderful. So what will happen today? We have collected some of the most frequently asked questions online. Thank you everybody for submitting these questions, really helps us. And we have 3 different blogs where we will try to answer all of the questions as faithfully as possible. And before we head into the first section, which is all about Bond, here's a little trailer to set up the mood.
Brace yourself!
Bond is immature and reckless. He's a bad influence on the other recruits who inexplicably fall victim to his charm.
Look, I know where this is going. Do you mind telling me why I'm here?
I would like you to join His Majesty's Secret Service.
You what?
I know all about your exploits in Iceland.
I strongly believe that there is a need for such heart and intuition in modern spycraft. That's the very reason I'm bringing back the Double O's.
Need I state the obvious? He is not ready.
James, the service is over.
You're a rare breed, Bond. I should be interested to see what you do next.
009 will employ every manner of subterfuge to avoid capture.
Try not to draw attention to yourself.
Me? Housekeeping, I presume?
You seem the kind of guy who knows what he likes.
So you won't do anything stupid.
Of course not. I'm not an idiot.
Agents have very short life expectancy. And if you do get caught, we will deny ever having heard of you. How does that sound?
When do I start?
Welcome back. Oh, and welcome back. So, we hope you're set to talk a bit about Bond, since you had a couple of questions regarding Bond. And I would say, let's just jump right in. So, let's talk about the first question, and I think this one is for you, or maybe for you, Dominic. How did we adapt Bond and kept his core identity?
Why don't you start and I'll talk about the mission side.
All right, so I mean, with James Bond, we're dealing with an over 60-year-old legacy franchise, you know, that's gone through various many different Bonds and through the generations. So there's definitely no lack of source material, but there are certain things that are truly intrinsic to what makes Bond Bond, you know, and every Bond through, if we're talking about like the theatrical universe, every Bond from one to the other kind of like handed over the baton and the next person picked it up in their own way. I'm reminded of an interview I once saw with Timothy Dalton, where he kind of asked, you know, to the producers that I'm coming in here taking over from the previous Bond. Do you want me to just continue in the path that's been laid, or do you want to like make my own groove, make my own Bond? And that's always the answer, you know, and that's the same how we treated it. So from the very beginning when we wrote the story, we knew what kind of Bond we were dealing with here. And, you know, it's a young Bond. We're telling a reimagined origin story of a young James Bond. He's around 26 years of age. He's not yet been to MI6 or through the 00 training. So there's that kind of like rough edge and naivete that comes out of him. But then there's that daring boldness that is still true to him that shines through. And so that's kind of how we play throughout the narrative and throughout the missions, that you kind of see him shape into the Bond that he's meant to be. But he's his own Bond, he's his own version of that. And I think we landed it pretty well how we wanted it.
Yeah, he's like this, he's unpolished in the traditional sense from the cinematic universe, but I think also is we've got a lot of time with the player. We've got I think that's the benefit of the medium, benefit of what games lets us do. We've got time with the player to kind of get attached to this guy, but also see him earn some of these traits. The tagline for the game has for a long time been to like earn that number.
And still is.
Still is. Still is. It's also like earning his musical themes, earning these little traits and these little things. And we pulled from a lot of different places, but it's also like the sense of surprise that the player gets to see, oh, that's where that came from. That's why Bond does X and Y. And it's kind of, that's our stamp on it. And then I think in the gameplay sense, it's also making sure that the systems reflect some of that lack of polish, some of that like that improvisational nature that everybody knows is very Bondy. But you know, I don't know if we've seen that in games.
Maybe not necessarily.
No,
When it fits the character, you've probably seen it, right?
Yeah.
We think it fits this character, so
sure,
we try
sure.
to put that in also, right? But yeah, just to follow up on that, that's for instance been one of our key inspirations for the close combat systems, right? That improvisational trait to just grab something from the table and fling it at somebody's head, right? That just feels like Bond.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned that he is a storied character who comes a lot with like his own habits, with own flaws, maybe sometimes inexperience. How is this represented in the game?
So jumping in, I think you know, we can also draw inspiration from one of our previous Behind the Light videos that we had with our main writer Michael. You know, and he really went in depth. So if you want to hear more, you can definitely check that out. You know, it's about writing and shaping this Bond, as I mentioned before, that he's not yet fully shaped into the 007 that you've come to know through, you know, theatrical releases. So he's still going to make mistakes. You know, he's going to fail. He's going to need to learn out of those mistakes. He's maybe going to be too trusting in areas where he needs to be a bit more, you know, strategic, or be overcautious where he can actually trust his instincts and go. And this part of his personality, this part of his journey, and how he you know, deals with that, I think that's what you as the player is here to experience. You know, you're here to go with Bond on this journey. You know, that's part of the reason why we decided early on that we really wanted to write an origin story, because it gives us a really, you know, big creative vehicle to kind of inject a bit of our own creativity into the story as well. And I can add this from like a licensing point of view, because we worked from the beginning very closely with the licensors of the IP, and you know, we used to have these bi-weekly creative calls where we would go through script elements, we would go through character, you know, art and creation. But they really trusted us. Like, we had a lot of creative liberty to kind of like, you know, put forth a story we want to tell, and then we would counsel and we would spar together, and they would be like, yeah, you know, this works in the setting you're talking about, but Bond wouldn't necessarily do it like that. Is there another way we can find out about, you know, how we would deal with something like that? And so really together it was kind of like an iron sharpens iron from both sides, where we could tap into the authentic legacy with our partners, while bringing something new to life, and that was, you know, really exciting.
Awesome. That's really interesting to see. I really like the saying, iron shapes iron there. Maybe let's jump a bit. Obviously, Bond is our titular character. He's the main character of the game. But how was the process of actually choosing who portrays Bond? Can you give us a bit more insights on how this really happened?
I mean, that goes back again to working closely with our licensors, you know, so that's also part of the job. The role is making sure that, you know, we work together, we submit things, we review things, we get feedback, we get approvals, like that there's a whole kind of like behind the scenes collaboration with, you know, working on licensed IP. But we've got really great partners to work with, and you know, throughout the narrative, all of the main characters, they were a part of choosing and greenlighting, you know, who's playing who you know, who are we choosing for which role, and that goes for the main role as well, James Bond, right? So I can recall a fun story that our narrative and cinematic director once told about during the auditioning phase. You know, we had a few actors that would come in, but the sense was that many of them kind of ended up feeling like they were cosplaying as Bond. And then when we found Patrick Gibson, you know, he stepped into the room and he really kind of like stepped into Bond's shoes, and you could see he became Bond. He adopted the Bond that we had on paper and he brought it to life. And that's been so exciting, you know, like working with Paddy, and I think all of us have in different ways interacted with him and, you know, seen him come to life in the game through cinematics and gameplay and storytelling, and finding our Bond and having him be that person to do it. You know, I can share even more with some of the other actors that worked with him. They also, sing his praises that when they were doing scenes together, because our actors does, that we do performance capture,
Yes.
voiceover, mocap, all of that. And there's a real chemistry between the actors when they're on the stage. And a lot of it is also with Paddy being there from the start, him kind of like leading the charge. And so yeah, we're just super happy we found him, and he's done a great job at it.
And so he was actually, of course, one of the first ones that
Yes.
we casted. Yeah,
I kind of have to get that one right.
Yeah, yeah, kind of
He-
makes sense.
He's got this. We've been listening to his tapes for years now. He has this. He's got the charisma of like a young man. That's James Bond. That kind of reads across. And I remember the very first time I ever heard any of his sides was, I think it was either cell phone footage or something in a casting room. So it's like it's not the way that we want to receive. Like it's not high fidelity. It's just this very. But it was really like piercing. It was really, he was able to kind of strike this intensity when needed to, but then he has that youthful energy. He could get the reckless lines out really well. And then we worked together for, you work with these actors for such a long time when you're making the game, the story is coming together, the missions are coming together, everything is starting to work. You could kind of see as he knew the character more and it's being formed, we have all these tapes of him kind of saying like, he wouldn't say that, he'd say this instead. And kind of, and I think because we have that collaboration and that, Martin in the studio sitting there and kind of like coaxing that out, you'd sometimes get things back from the studio that you didn't send out, but it works even better and it lifts the image, it lifts the pixels in really powerful ways. And I think when you get that right chemistry where the acting, with the writing, and all this stuff is working in synchronicity, you get these really like great textural story moments, which you need for Bond.
And speaking of pixels, I think I have a fun little, behind the scenes little tip that I can throw in here on the topic, right? Because game development is a long process, right? There's pre-production, main production, closing, all of that, and sometimes you go through different iterations of stuff. At one point, we had a Bond that wasn't influenced based on Patrick's likeness. But it didn't feel perfectly right for us, right? And together we spoke with the licensors as well and the direction team, and we decided, let's instead go for a closer to likeness representation of Bond. And we did with super high, the technology of technologies, right? All the dots on the face and performance capture. And I remember there was this video being sent around the office when we saw the first version of that, where Paddy was sitting there, in front of the camera and doing all sorts of face movements and looking left, looking right. And on the other side of the screen, we had our Bond. And he came to life. He just jumped out of the screen. And that was a moment we all knew, okay, wow, like we've got something special here. And ever since then, we've been able to like put way more human emotion into like the cinematics and the feeling and storytelling. And that is what a great actor brings to, a character like this. And it's
Awesome.
been really great.
Awesome. I would love to have seen that video. I need to see that footage
I'll send it
afterwards. Let's talk a bit more about the story and the direction of the game. A little bit more of the timeline and so on. Obviously, a lot of the questions were in the beginning. We want to do a reimagined origin story. Of course, one of the questions from the community is, why? Why are we choosing an origin story exactly? Maybe someone...
I mean, I think it gives you a pretty wide canvas to work with. I do think that games are, we have a lot of time with you, like, and I think that medium has the player writing lots of different movies in their head all the time, right? And I think that we put a big emphasis on the player being able to be creative and express their choices and stuff like that. And we have mechanics that make you feel like Bond and are, kind of intrinsic to how Bond would act and behave. But you're writing these little stories. And so then you say, well, I'm kind of new to this and I'm starting from the beginning. So that kind of feels like I'm along for the ride in this origin story. I mean, I think it was also a chance to start something fresh, which was important for us and is, I think, important for the story of the game. So, yeah.
But will we still have like callbacks or foreshadowings, maybe even some Easter eggs to other previous entries in the series?
It's hard to keep those out, I think. There's going to be some
mentions, some things you can find and stuff like that.
Okay.
Right? So
I can give you an example of something that's already public, so it's not, spoiler or
Spoilers,
anything like that. But if you recall back, I think it was like September around, we released some gameplay footage of the game with this particular mission happening in Slovakia. And there's this cool moment after he's driving in on his, Jaguar XJ, acting as if he's a chauffeur.
Yeah.
He's not yet the leading man. He's not got the best role in the team, and he's making his way there. And then after, you know, he's in the parking lot, his Bond instincts kicks in, he sees something fishy, so he wants to go investigate because he's Bond, that's what makes him him, right? And then there's this little moment where he takes his hat and he kind of like flings it into the car. And you know, that was pretty, you know, on repeat with a lot of Bonds back in the day. MI6, you know, they're in the office with M and Moneypenny and throwing it onto the hook. And little touches like that all throughout are sprinkled. And I think as the keen Bond enthusiast that would spot these things. You know, other people would just like, nice. But the ones who are looking for it, there's a lot for you to discover. So
I caught one yesterday. That was something that came across. It was something else that just from the side. But yeah, I think there's a lot of, it's obviously a very dialogue and investigation heavy aspects of this game, and it's a big part of the literary Bond. And there is a lot of stuff that slips in, and little references and names of characters and little things like that. So if you're a fan of definitely the cinematic universe, but also like the books, there's definitely some stuff around every corner.
Nice. I can already see the videos being like, these are the Easter eggs you have missed. I have a couple of like smaller questions from the community as well. Maybe this one we can answer pretty quickly. Is this set in the same universe as our beloved Hitman?
No.
This is a Bond universe.
Yeah, Bond universe.
I like the synchronicity of that.
Are there multiple endings or story outcomes in the game?
No. This is a narrative experience. It has a predetermined ending that we're really committed to delivering.
Yes. Okay. That's fair. I take it.
Yeah, the player choice comes into the gameplay.
That's
the creative approach that you can talk
There's
about.
a linear story that we want to tell, right? And we have the structure of the game where we funnel you in and do these story exposition passages that are more or less linear, and then we open up again into more open-ended gameplay. And there you can go left and right or middle route, so you kind of shape your own route through those segments.
Okay.
But it's not the story per se. No.
All right, that works. We had one very specific question. I assume this came from the UK. Will the British language and cultural authenticity be preserved in the game?
Yes. Yes.
I think that.
Yeah. I mean, throughout as well, we had, you know, British writers and references and, you know, consultation and working with, you know, the legacy partners on the franchise as well. So that is definitely there, but at the same time as well, we're talking about a newer Bond, a younger Bond. You know, it's a contemporary setting. We're not, you know, in 2070 and we're not in 1970. Like the story is happening now. Language evolves throughout time as well, right? But we try to be as true as we can to, you know, the Britishness of it. But yeah, Bond is his own Bond, and you know, he has his ways.
Yeah. One specific question, since we're still speaking about languages, is I think this one allures more to Bond being like a global player around in different settings. Will Bond speak multiple languages in the game? Will he display some of his multilingual abilities?
There's
a little bit.
Yeah, we're gonna don't want to give too much away. Yeah, he's a bit of a linguist. I mean, he's definitely talking his way out of a lot of trouble sometimes. And there's some humor and some charm and some stuff that I think has already come out in some of the previews. But yeah, no, he's a bright guy with a lot of skills.
Awesome.
Predominantly English, though, just to
set the bar. Okay, yeah, predominantly
English,
of
little
course.
bit,
Yeah, I mean, he's a British agent, of course.
Yes.
He will stick to his British. Little bit of a shift regarding topics, and because this is still tied to the Bond IP, but of course, a lot of people want to hear more about merch and hear more about the versions that we have and what we are bringing to the game. So I think, first of all, we have a lot of questions regarding the Legacy Edition, which is the Golden Gun. Can we share a few details for like inspiration-wise? What does it really entail? What it is?
Remember all it is.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember all. Yeah,
there's a golden gun. There's probably an outfit, right?
Yeah, I mean, if we're just talking about merch,
just
only
yeah.
physical merch.
No,
Yeah, you know, the golden gun is a replica, you know, statuette as a callback to the man with the golden gun, you know, with Scaramanga and so on. But physically itself, you know, it is a beautiful display case. I've seen it myself. I've had to set it up. You know, there's a really fun way of assembling it, taking it out, putting it on the platform. You know, the game in there as well.
Nice.
Letter of authenticity, all that thing. So it is meant for, you know, Bond enthusiasts and collectors, people who really love that sense of novelty and having it there on their desk, having it in their office, etc. And a lot of attention to detail went into it. You know, using the base materials and colors and paint and making sure that the texture, you know, comes across as luxurious. So it's definitely worth it. It's really beautiful in person.
Let's clarify, it is not gold.
It's not actual gold. You can't sell a bullion on the black market.
I just ordered it.
And also, just to make it clear, for safety and security and airport reasons, it's not a physical gun that you can pick up and walk around. It has to be able to move around global shipping and markets and stuff like that. So it is a collector's edition. It's meant to be novelty, piece that you have.
Display.
Exactly. Yeah, within the display case.
Some of our community members have already seen there are some shirts already that you can buy with the logo of the game. Are we planning to add more of that in the future, or can we share a bit more?
Yes, we're working with Amazon on that as well. So I think when the time comes and there's more news to officially announce and share, it'll come out. But we collaborate closely on that as well. Reviewing it, making sure that whatever things we're going into, print material or physical merchandise, represents the game well, uses the right branding and logo and colors and characters, etc. So there's more to come. I won't go into too many details now, but if you want to swag it out, you probably will be able to.
In a future stream, we will all make a little bit of advertisement.
I think we all need some.
For sure.
Exactly. Yeah.
One of the big topics, of course, leading up to the game is in the community the pre-order content. We have a lot of cool pre-order content that you can get, but some people are rightfully asking, can we also get the pre-order content later down the line? Is this something that we are exploring, or?
Right now, again, it stays in the offering that it is until we will exclusively communicate. We may have some plans in future to put it distributed differently, but we like hanging on to that sense of exclusivity.
Yes.
It's nice and rewarding for you when you have that. So maybe down the line, how games are. As with many games, but particularly IO Interactive games, the launch is just the beginning, right? We definitely have plans into the future. We'll probably talk more about that when we get to talking about TACSIM and so on. But we've got long future eyes.
Well, I would say we will wrap up the IP talk, the Bond talk, regarding just the creative approach to the Bond IP, because in the next section we will talk a bit more about technology, specifications, and optimization. And in order to set ourselves up for that, we'll have a little break with a little trailer in between, but we'll be right back. Hello back. Yeah, that was a short trailer, but it's a nice pre-order trailer. Since we talked about pre-ordering right now, also nice to see what you can actually pre-order. This section will be regarding technology, optimization, performance, and some of the more technical stuff before we head into the last section, which will be combat, missions, and gameplay. So let's start off with one of the most pressing questions, and I think that one is very interesting for everybody in the community to hear. Is an always online connection required? If so, what are the key differences between online and offline play? Take it away.
You can say you had the good answer earlier.
So no, it's not necessarily always online. You have to download the first patch to get the actual game. Once you've downloaded that, you can pull out your plug and play it offline if that's what you want. There are some things in the game that are impacted a bit about being offline. We will, for instance, challenges, we will cache your completion of it, but they probably won't update before you get online again. But you will be able to complete them. So there's that. And there's some TACSIM leaderboard stuff that obviously can't work if you're not online. So
yes. So
but the main campaign, fully playable offline.
Nice. Yeah. So we will have a leaderboard per platform, so we can see the best players on PlayStation, Steam, Epic, and so on. Nice.
Exactly. So it's really just that one-time internet connection, and then the full richness, as you mentioned, with TACSIM, tactical simulations.
Awesome. Okay. I hope that answered all the questions. If not, hit me up on Discord. we can talk about it a bit more. Is progress shared across platforms, like in a more or less cross-progression system style?
So I don't believe we're sharing like game save files, but the similar online things with attack sim leaderboards and challenges, those can be transferable, I believe. But yeah, not.
Leaderboards, actually not.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, those are per platforms. That's
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. Yeah, I think that answers my question at least.
I think what is important that people really want to know and hear, so just to repeat it again, you can play the entire main campaign offline. That's what's important for you to know that you don't need it, like you said, rip out that internet code and just have fun.
Yeah.
You might get a pop-up saying, by the way, you're offline.
Yeah.
But then you dismiss that and then you play on.
A couple of the previous games in James Bond have really focused on multiplayer, and obviously, like one of the more mentioned games is GoldenEye, has a great time in multiplayer. Do we have plans for co-op or multiplayer in 007 First Light?
No, at this time there's no plans for that. Our focus is the story, tac sim, the single player experience that we're kind of experts in, that we're hoping to deliver. So that's our core focus.
Exactly, because in a nutshell, 007 First Light can be described as a third-person, story-driven action-adventure game. And that's kind of like a solo experience. That's where you get to, sit there on your couch or in front of your PC and just, immerse yourself into this world and become James Bond, like be Bond your way kind of thing. So that's where the focus is.
Earn your number.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Okay, thanks for these. Then let's talk a bit about more performance and optimization. Obviously, we delayed the game to focus a lot on optimization, and we've come a long way, and it's looking great right now. I had the pleasure of seeing it. But speaking about performance more in general, will there be a performance and quality mode on consoles, for example, talking about PS5 and Xbox? Do we have that?
Yes.
Exactly. So with PS5, with Xbox Series X, not on Series S, I believe, but you can choose between quality mode, performance mode. It's up to you.
Okay, then let's stick to the consoles here. Obviously, we're also releasing on PS5, and the PS5 controller has options for adaptive triggers and haptics. Are these features that we incorporate, and do we also have them, like if you connect a controller to a PC, for example?
Yep. You're going to have on the PS5, we're using adaptive triggers and stereoscopic haptics on the PS5 controller that everybody loves, as well as like audio-driven haptics. It's very, very cool. We also have that on PC. You will just need to have a PS5 controller wired in, which is the standard across games, and then we will have Rumble and other things on other controller types, both third-party and Xbox. So, yeah.
Oh, okay. I haven't experienced that one yet. I'll need to take a look there. A question from the community was also, will we have official mod support?
No. We have no plans to currently implement mod support in 007 First Light.
All right, okay. Fairly cool. Yeah, that's a quick question. That's what we can do. Nothing to add here on that part. Speaking about progression in the game a bit, like more technically wise, how do you unlock skins and outfits? Can you unlock skins and outfits in the game? Is this a thing that we have, or?
We have many skins and outfits, yes.
Yeah,
so some of them are unlocked with the different purchase options that we have, like the deluxe and legacy editions and stuff like that, right? Also, I think there's outfits for signing up to the IOI account.
Yes.
But on top of that, we have challenges in the game where you completing the challenges and completing levels in the game will unlock outfits throughout the campaign that are kind of associated to the different missions that you are completing. So there's a lot, and those outfits can all be used in tac sim missions, and so you can kit yourself out there. And obviously down the line, it's just easy things to build on top of, obviously, right? So, and cool unlocks.
Cool
unlocks.
We take it. Obviously, we dabbled a bit in this before with our previous game, but will VR support be considered for 007 First Light?
Not at this time, but the future is the future, so let's see where we go.
All right, okay, then you can for sure really earn your number there. All right, and I think actually regarding technical part, we have answered almost all the questions that I have regarding that. Let me check. No, we talked about all of that. And I would say we come to the biggest part, or after a short little skip, we'll take a look at the Rules of Spycraft trailer right now, just to get a look of the gameplay that we are bringing to 007 First Light, because then we will actually talk about the gameplay. We'll talk missions, we'll talk combat. So here's a Spycraft trailer.
Everyone!
Welcome to MI6. To succeed in the 00 program, agents must understand a set of rules that will grant them all possible chances to survive. So, take a deep breath, listen up, and you may learn how to get the job done and return to HQ in one piece. The first rule is to know how to blend in. Keeping a low profile while navigating a crowd will help you find different paths to your objective.
Ken Banks, penetration tester.
Pay attention to the surroundings, eavesdrop on conversation, and talk your way in with the help of unexpected allies.
Relax, fellas. He's with me.
Once trespassing, slip past your opponents unnoticed, or use takedowns to silently get rid of them. When confronting a whole group of enemies, you may choose a gentler approach.
And hut! Rob Minkley, Krugs Magazine.
Bluffing is an art that will serve you well, whether getting caught red-handed
Over here! Looks like a trust fall gone wrong.
or to simply pass through a room under enemies' noses.
Oi, you lads got a faulty coffee machine?
Bluffing consumes instinct and won't be available if a more experienced enemy is nearby. In this scenario, you won't get far without the appropriate gear. Therefore, the second rule is to always come prepared.
Well, what are we waiting for?
MI6 will keep its doors open for you between missions, giving you the chance to catch up with familiar faces, gather intel, and prepare for your next move.
So your name is Moneypenny.
Now let's not get carried away, James.
QLab, on the lower level, will give you access to a wide range of gadgets.
I like it. Don't change a thing.
Each tool is designed to go unnoticed on the field, but help with maximum efficiency.
Right, follow me. I have something for you.
The Q-Lens will highlight useful information about opportunities and hackable devices. Your Q-Watch should be able to activate these to divert attention, deactivate cameras, or get rid of unsuspicious enemies in creative ways. The dot phone can quietly move enemies out of the way. The smoke pod, a timeless classic, will block visibility at short range. The modified earbuds will produce a flash of light to stun opponents. Other gadgets will be developed in due time and will help you stay creative in all circumstances.
Who do you work for? Take the shot!
Knowing how to improvise is a matter of life and death in the midst of action. Any object at disposal could prove useful to put an enemy's ideas back in their place. The same could be said of guardrails, electrical panels, or any surface hard enough to act as a weapon. Under heated circumstances, MI6 grants you a license to kill, allowing for even more possibilities to get rid of hostiles. In these situations, any weapon could be used as long as you manage to obtain it. Switch between different playstyles to catch your attackers off guard, and don't forget to return what you borrowed once out of ammo. Some enemies will be harder to defeat, and gadgets will help you get rid of soldiers' armors, stun tenacious leaders, and defuse grenades with the simple press of a button from your watch. Focus training will also give you an edge over your enemies. Dilate time and incapacitate their legs, or disarm them with the precision of a marksman. All of these skills might be trained between missions in TACSIM, the department of Dr. Selena Tan.
Welcome to my dream factory.
TACSIM will put your skills to the test through multiple types of challenges, each with its own specific rules that will pitch your performance against those of other agents from around the world. Overcoming challenges will earn you experience points, which you can spend on gadget upgrades, new firearms, and unique outfits to defeat enemies in style. And remember, at IO Interactive, the launch of a game is only the start. New content for TACSIM will be created over time.
Faster, James. Faster.
So, keep an eye out for our updates, and get ready as new challenges lie ahead to put your 00 skills to the test. Finally, one last unwritten rule might be that an agent is never as good as when surrounded by allies, a team ready to give its all in the field, and companions to defend. But we're pretty sure you'll figure out this part yourself when the time comes. See you on May 27th to join the program and discover Bond's adventures in 007 First Light.
Okay, we're live.
and we are back. And yes, first a misconception. This is not pre-recorded. Obviously, we forgot to turn on the mics or turn off the mics when we went to do the trailer. And let's also just pick up two questions we saw in the chat being a bit more discussed. First question, we saw a lot of comments regarding, will we have a demo for the game?
No plans for a demo.
No plans for a demo, no.
Unfortunately, no plans for a demo, but
we're so close to launch.
Yeah. And the second question that we saw also in the chat, we saw some people discuss it. Will we be able to customize the HUD or turn it off completely?
Well, there will be some things that you can turn off. I can't actually remember if you can turn all of it off. I think you can. But on the other hand, like it's HUD that are actually useful for the game. So I would leave it on.
Of course, for the cinematic experience, you can see, but customization will be there.
Screenshots and stuff, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, then we talk about the biggest part of today, which is gameplay. And of course, this is something that we are all the most interested in at this moment, since we haven't played it yet, but we want to know more. So let's talk a bit about missions. I think, Dominic, this is where Yo will be jumping in a lot. Question number one that we got from the community is, will missions support multiple approaches and paths?
Yes, they will. Our missions, they kind of vary in their width, but they're all pretty wide. Yes, it's a story-driven game, but, and we saw a lot of good feedback on this off of the preview event we just did. The player's invited to kind of figure it out themselves in a lot of cases. Like we give them a lot of powerful tools to navigate their way, but there's going to be different routes, different mechanics they need to utilize, mixing and matching a little bit. There's a lot of stuff inside of the loops that allow you to go a bit wide. We have really beautiful and sort of vibrant social spaces where you're going to be using your charm, you're going to be using some powers of deduction and some stuff to get past people or kind of get what James Bond wants. And then, of course, maybe talk a little bit about some of the combat arenas and the spaces.
Yeah, but I just want to add on the open spaces, right? This is probably where you'll see some of that Hitman DNA that we had before, right? Where it's very, in the moment to moment, it feels kind of similar where you're sitting there behind a cover trying to stealth your way or infiltrate your way into something, and there's two enemies in front of you, right? What do? Do you throw smoke to the left, or do you shoot down a chandelier, or whatever you want here? Or do I try to just sneak around and time it, right? And that's on the moment to moment, so you see that level of choice that you have there, which is iconic for what we did before also. But also on a little bit higher level, as Dom was saying, there are multiple ways there. I said it before also, you start in an open area, and there is definitely this thing of should I go left, or should I go right, or should I go straight through? And all these paths leads to different obstacles that can kind of intertwine between each other too, right?
And just to add to that, if you take a bit of even one more step back, going and flowing between the missions and throughout the story, we approached it with kind of almost like a breathing in and out gameplay approach, where there's the core gameplay that we've talked about, where there's this wide creative approach where you can decide how you want to approach things, and then sometimes there's a bit more of a guided gameplay. So sometimes the game kind of like breathes in, where there's a lot of forward momentum, there's spectacle, there's these kind of like huge Bond moments that you would come to expect and experience that drives the story forward, that drives the momentum forward. And these sections are maybe a little bit more guided, but then we kind of like drop you off into more open space, and it constantly kind of flows like this throughout the story, and it's a really interesting kind of like recipe towards the gameplay that just keeps you compelled to just want to keep going, and these bombastic action set pieces, like to just play it again or try, in the open spaces a different route, and so there's that level of replayability that also comes into play, and it's really fun.
All right, then another question from the community was, is there something like a base of operation, something where you're coming back? I mean, some people can already guess what it is, but I'll leave it up to you to say it.
Yeah, I mean, we've shown a little bit, and you can kind of, we have seen people in the community already piecing things together from trailers and such. But yeah, I mean, your allies, Moneypenny, M, Q, are all kind of characters that are along this journey with you. Right? You're getting to know them. This is like found family. Of course, you get to go to MI6, and I think that has a huge like cinematic pedigree of the Q-Bond relationship is something that you kind of you
Yeah.
put your stamp on in every single different permutation and generation of the films. We have our own, and the player just gets to freely explore, which is, I think, a really nice breath of fresh air and oxygen in the pacing. And so if you're really inclined to find some of these Easter eggs and explore a bit, see how are these gadgets being built, there's a lot of little surprises and charm around every corner throughout. So yes, there's definitely some cool stuff.
What are they doing in the back room of MI6?
Exactly.
yeah. Go over there.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of fun. Like I've caught myself sometimes just kind of like playing the game and being able to just walk around the offices of MI6 and go into QLab and poke your nose around. If you're a Bond fan, like you're definitely going to be having a feast. There's a lot of richness here. There's a lot of the lore IP kind of like dripping through it. So that's very, very exciting. I mean, on the other end as well, even if you're not that acquainted to Bond, there's still that whole action adventure side that you get to just like immerse yourself in and go and explore and go and look around. So it's very fun. Being able to bring that to life in a 3D space and let you just be there, it's so fun.
Speaking of office, which is better, MI6 office or our office?
Ooh, no comment.
They have gadgets, right? So I'll
okay.
go MI6.
Okay, you heard it here. Everybody in the studio, we want gadgets at work.
It's a little unsafe.
You need to live a little.
Yeah.
I mean, since we are already, I don't know, let's talk a bit about combat and skills and also some of the mechanics. I think this is where you, Andreas, you will come in on it. So can you, we already explained it a bit in the Spycraft trailer we just saw, but can you shine a bit more light on the license to kill?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so Bond is a character, right, that we know and love for many traits, and one of them is also that he doesn't just hurt civilians. Even if they're just maybe a little bit evil, like he wouldn't just kill them outright. It's a character where he will kind of show appropriate force to anyone that's against him, right? So we kind of wanted to incorporate that, and the point of the license to kill is then to show the player when you're allowed to actually kill. We could have gone with a lot of different messages in this vein, right? But the license to kill is just so iconic for the franchise, right? And it fit actually into this messaging. So when you get the license to kill, it's when you can actually start shooting. And it happens whenever the enemy shows intent to kill you. So sometimes it's scripted moments where we say, okay, now we have that in our gameplay trailer where you end up on an airplane strip and you have to shoot your way through, and there you get discovered and they open fire, and now you get license to kill. Sometimes it happens in more systemic gameplay where you are infiltrating something and maybe you got in a fist fight because that's how you want to solve this problem. But you escalated a little too much and they become a little bit too angry, and now they open fire, and now you're also allowed to open fire. You get the license to kill there. So
Escalating things doesn't sound like Bond at all.
It can happen, also for Bond.
One of the gameplay features that went a little bit viral and everybody was very excited to see, and it's the bluffing. Of course, Bond is charismatic, but can you share a bit more on the bluffing system? Does it always work? Is it situation specific? Can you reuse it everywhere?
Yeah, I mean, we're also pretty proud of that feature. We feel it's pretty novel, actually. We've been through many iterations of it, right? But right now, it's a bluffing feature where if you're in any kind of data, if you're spotted, we build it so it's kind of a way out. So technically, it's based on a resource called instinct. So you can bluff if you're discovered, or just walk into a room and bluff if you want to do that from the get-go, but you use some instinct, and that's how we balance it, because it is a very powerful feature where you just say a bluff to a group of enemies, and then they believe that it's okay that he's here. You have had a very good excuse, right? And so it's kind of a smart bomb in those situations. Sometimes there are some enemies that are a little more aware. We call them watchers, so those are not as easy to bluff. They kind of know their friends in this space, right? And they wouldn't be fooled by a random stranger coming in, no matter what he's saying.
Hey, I work with you.
You can't fool me. So those are kind of some of the puzzle pieces that we can play around with. If you want this encounter to be a little bit harder, then we put a watcher in, and then you have to think about it. Oh, I can't just go up and bluff all these guys. I might have to take out the watcher first. Maybe maybe make him sick with a sick dart gadget first, and then I can bluff the whole room and then go forward, right? Yeah, and obviously I don't know if you can talk to the dialogue part of it, but
there's a lot of depth there. I mean, there's obviously like it's Bond's got a quip, right? He's got a quip. He's got a silver tongue. But there's also like a lot of really cool stuff under the hood because he's picking from all kinds of story relevant bluffs at the time, room relevant bluffs, like context, like what has he done previously, what's he going to say next, that kind of stuff. So it's going to always feel that way. And like my feedback on like when we play the game is a lot of times when you kind of get confronted and maybe you kind of stepped out of place or you were trying something different or replaying a section, I think one of the cooler parts is that it's kind of exactly how you're kind of on your back heel for a second and then you bluff and you have that meter full and you fire it off and it's something that just makes everybody chuckle and then the room kind of is disengaged for a bit and you're able to sneak past. It just feels really Bondy. Right? It's just a nice little feeling while you're playing the game. And like a lifelong stealth player, and there are just times where you're like, that's not what I meant to do. And I could defuse this, which is exactly what Bond would do. He would kind of just something off the top of his head, and so it has a tendency to always kind of feel right in the moment, and you're kind of like. It's kind of nice.
And it's also just a really fun way for you to kind of like connect with his personality as a player and get to know him more. And I really think it's a testament to like our writers team and the great variety that they've put into like these systemic dialogue and there's a lot of work that it goes into it to make it fitting.
Do we know how many lies we've wrote?
I was gonna say that YouTube video is gonna be long. It's the writing team from IO, so it's gonna be a very long YouTube video. There's a lot of stuff in there.
Okay,
so,
I see the lie compilation will come.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But it was one of these things where like, oh, can we write enough to not make this seem repetitive and stuff
yes.
like that? But yes, we could.
We touched upon gadgets a bit and in general Bond's abilities, but one question was, will Bond have skill progression and how does it look like?
Well, like physical skill progression, no, not exactly. We have a Bond and he has his physical prowess from the very beginning, so he can do all his cool Bond moves as well there. The progression that we have is in the gadgets, where throughout the campaign you'll start unlocking new gadgets. And then you'll have to, on the mission that you're going to, you have to choose which gadgets you want to bring. So that's where you kind of get your stamp on your playstyle. Also, do you want to bring the more offensive gadgets or the more defensive or stealth, purposeful gadgets there, right? So that's kind of your choice.
Yes, and let's stick to gadgets, I guess, because my next session is called Weapons and Gadgets. And I think we have also brought a couple of videos regarding some of the gadgets, which we can then play during the section as well. And then I will... Yeah, let's do this question. How are Bond's gadgets redesigned for this game?
Well, I don't know if you want to talk to the
I can mention a little background, and you can talk on the gameplay kind of thing. But it definitely also it starts with the gameplay intention and the gameplay variety that we want to bring into the moment to moment. What is the skill set and the tool set that Bond has? And so for example, if we're thinking of we want to have a something that can drop a smoke pellet or a smoke screen so that you can use that to move from one place to another or take enemies out, that's the gameplay side of things. But then when it comes into the fantasy side of things, we also again work really closely with the licensors, right? So part of what is fun and unique about our Bond is that the gadgets that he's bringing into the field is kind of like everyday gadgets, things that you wouldn't be suspected of, or he'll have a phone that looks like a standard dart phone, but it's a dart phone, and you quickly shoot a little dart out, and that can nauseate an NPC and move them out of the way, so you can manipulate them like that. Speaking of the smoke, we found a really smart way of putting that into a fancy-looking lighter. I think
we have a little video for the lighter as well.
And you'll see, there's these little smoke pellets that kind of like go in there and fill. So from the outside, it looks like a standard lighter. But typical with Q Magic and Q Branch doing their things, Bond will shoot out those pellets, and that becomes there. When it comes, for example, to the watch, as an example, here we had a really fun opportunity to work with another brand partner as well, something that is also quite synonymous with the world of Bond, Omega.
Yes.
So that was a really fun partnership. Working with them has been a long and fun, and interesting and really fun journey, because Omega themselves, they have a long-lasting legacy. Like they're a company that's been around for a long time, so details matter to them. quality matters to them. You know, they want to also make sure that we work with, you know, their IP and their assets in a respectful way. But at the same time, we give it that edge, we give it that Q treatment, right? So we've got the shout out Omega Seamaster 300-meter diver chronograph, mouthful, but it's worth it. That's the watch that's officially, you know, our Bond's watch in the game, and it's you know, it's a multi-purpose watch. It can hack the environment, so you know you can together with the Q lens, you scan the environment, see where there are things that you can interact with and hack. It has a really fancy, fun laser attachment. And then we really treat things, you know, with purpose, so that it has form and function, right? So when it comes to the difference of the laser attachment to just the standard strap of the watch, we use the black rubber strap on the watch for the reasons of, you know, being able to help with the electricity conducting and the batteries in there. So everything has a real design reason behind it. Like we go deep on this. We sketch it all the way into from concept. We've got amazing concept artists, and from that work, we work with the licensors of like, if this is fundamentally plausible in the world of Bond, we want to make that show and come forth in our gadgets. So it doesn't just look like something. There's a reason behind why it's designed the way it is, why it looks the way it does. So yeah, a lot of passionate people got to kind of like nerd out and really have fun with this. And, yeah.
From a gameplay perspective, it really started with the question of how do you use gadgets in the game, right? So and very early on, we were also in that camp where how do Bond use gadgets in the movies, and those are very opportunistic, one-time use gadgets, right? But very early, we also felt like, okay, if you're done playing this game, you need to have felt that you used gadgets enough for you to feel like you've played Bond, because it's such an iconic thing about what Bond does, right? He just uses gadgets, right? And only being able to use these gadgets once in very maybe high cinematic moments or something like that, that wasn't really enough for us to get that feeling across. So we pivoted into adapting into systemic gameplay. That's really what we wanted to do, and that feed back into how they're visualized, like their phone, their watch, their lighter, because those are inconspicuous objects, and we have the social spaces where we also want you to use gadgets because we want this choice-filled gameplay, right? So using a gadget there needed to be inconspicuous in some way, right? So,
and I just want to add to this, because you're talking, you know, of how they fit very well into our social spaces. But the really fun thing is they also fit really well into our combat spaces, right? Because something that you know, that we really went quite deep in on. I'll start you off, and then you can add to this, right? But our combat, I think, also coming out of our previews, people were very happily surprised, and we've already received a lot of praise for kind of just like how deep it goes. You know, it's not just about one button punch. There's like there's a bit of a combo system there. There's some, you know, you need to dodge, you need to sidestep, parry. You know, read your opponent, but while you're busy fighting, you got to remember you still have your gadgets on you. So if you start to get a little overwhelmed, and you perhaps have the laser attachment or the dart phone, whatever, mid-combat, just quickly like, psst, you know, zap a guy in the face, close in, you know, sort it out. So it's really part of the social and the combat space, and that just like brings so much variety and depth to the gameplay. I mean, if you can't tell, we're super excited about it. Like, we are.
It's like sidestepping a guy and then lasering him to incapacitate.
Yes.
The dialogues, that's also the best part. It's like they have all these kind of systemic dialogues, and you'll be fighting a guy, he's trying to take you down, and you blind him, and he's all of a sudden he's weakened. So this sort of personality shift comes in that feels really great to take that guy out.
Okay, I see. We spend a lot of time on the research of the gadgets, making them plausible. So my personal question is, did we build them also ourselves to test it here at I/O, or I mean, if
that's how we're gonna win the which office wins, right?
Yeah.
Like I think we need to go work on that a little bit, but yeah.
Let's talk a bit more about the weapons. What kind of weapons do the players have the chance to play with?
Well, we'll have a selection of weapons as you go through the campaign, right? In different areas, NPCs or your enemies will have different weapons, and if you take them off of those, you'll have your pistols, your SMGs, assault rifles, snipers as you go through, depending on which enemy you're against.
Shotguns?
Right? Shotguns, yes.
All right, okay.
Obviously.
Of course.
A few of every type, probably also, as far as I remember.
Quite a number, and then attachments add some sense of variety. There's like a constant.
Flow of new
stuff.
Because they try to balance those out, right? Then you also get your service pistols throughout the story, and so those are basically the variety. Anything to add?
They feel good.
All right, let's go.
I think I'd like to, it's been seen already, but what I can add is also how fun it is acquiring these weapons. Because, you know, as we mentioned before, our game focuses a lot on forward momentum, and that is very true in the combat itself as well. So, for example, you could be, you know, getting yourself in a sticky situation, License to Kill is there. There happens to be a perfectly good shotgun laying on the floor next to you.
We know this. Everybody has been in this situation.
You know, so yeah, exactly. Bond will kick that up, you know, grab it, shoot the next guy. Once the bullets are empty, one of our, you know, just like favorite little mechanics that everybody loves, is the weapon itself becomes a projectile. You throw that at the next guy, run in, close the gap, take him down, take his gun from him, shoot the next guy in the leg, run in, take him down. So Bond improvises. He moves fast on his feet, and yeah, you get into a nice flow state.
That's one of my favorite moments when I think it was a half a year ago, right, where I tested actually one of the levels for the preview, the red room, and I just made that sequence of, oh, I don't have a gun, there's one upstairs, I jump up, I face him directly, I punch him a few times, and then the best thing was to throw him over the railing. I did that, I realized I still don't have a gun, so I jump over over the railing with him and pick up his gun, shoot the next guy, I'm empty of bullets, throw the bullets, and I put down my controller, I'm like, okay, it happened. The flow that we wanted, it just happened naturally. Nice.
We put like a lot of work into the feel of the guns as well, like over the last few years, because I think it's something that people are gonna, just as much as we're talking about gadgets, but you know, Bond is super capable with the gun in his hand.
Yeah.
And even though he's throwing them and dispatching them very quickly and just sort of constantly improvising and changing, there's like a ton of haptic feedback and sound work and VFX and gun feel in the game that I think a lot of the preview events kind of talked about that comes across, but there's been a lot of really interesting things. A really high sense of variety to weapons and weapon play in the game.
And you just mentioned, you know, sound effects and audio, and weren't there a few fun trips you guys
Yes.
did? And you know?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we do. We all of our handguns are recorded because we wanted to change the sound of guns for the game. We wanted to have something that was kind of ours. That was, you know, like a lot of the film Bond films have a very specific sound to weapons. You know, they're kind of marked by time, and so we wanted to do that as well. So I took booked an airfield in north of Stockholm in freezing snow so we could fly, and I volunteered one of my very senior members of the team to freeze up there, and he went and recorded it. I needed to record music, so I got to do the cool stuff indoors. Yeah, no, we put a lot of care. We've got a couple people who've been, especially one who's been really committed to the sound of guns and really like lifting that sense of fidelity, not just kind of the spatial awareness of who's shooting at you and the feedback and how visceral that is, but just like how good it feels in your hand. And then the audio team also works with the actual haptics, so making sure that when you pull the trigger, like how that feeds back per weapon, so that you get this great sense of.
That must have been a nice task. Let's go up there, record some guns.
Did a great job. Did a great
Great.
job. Team did a great job.
Saying on that, do we have RPGs and bazookas in the game?
I'm not going to say anything. we have very. No, I'm not going to say anything. I don't think so. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, just so you know,
Almost revealed something else.
I
just other things need to be kept
I
secret.
just remember, like, I just imagine our
Yeah.
colleague being there, like, okay, I'm shooting off this bazooka.
Yeah, right.
I need the sound of it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. We have to go out and record it.
Let's stick to weapons for a bit. One of the questions from the community was, do weapons support attachments? Speaking of like scopes, suppressors, and so on.
I mean, you'll find weapons with attachments, with silencers. You'll also get a silencer for your. Should we read that? You'll get silencer for your service pistol as you progress through the game.
It's part of the
So
story.
I also seen it in trailers anyway. So you get some of these and scopes on some weapons, but it's not something you can put on and off. It follows the weapons that you get from the campaign.
One question I had regarding,
I'm just realizing, I don't know if we've spoken about this yet, but it fits in with weapons and it fits in with combat, and a really fun feature that also draws from the instinct resource, which is focus.
Yes.
That's where you get to have that really badass moment where Bond just kind of like digs deep, breathes in, and time slows down for a moment, and you can perfectly line up your shot.
Yeah.
And that comes into, you know, the fun kind of like play as well of how and when you use your instinct, you know, for either luring or bluffing or, you know, slowing down time. But it just makes the gunplay so visceral and makes you feel so in control And there's just like really cool moments of also like just grabbing the gun and doing the iconic kind of side shot. So yeah, there's a lot there for people to discover.
Speaking of iconic, will classic Bond gadgets return? I mean, we touched upon this a bit already, but I think I can keep it short. The resounding answer is yes. Watches, pens, they are all back. So of course, we give a nod to the old gadgets in some kind of way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Another section, and of course, this is also very Bondy as it is. We talk about driving and cars. I mean, it's a big topic for the entire Bond franchise as well. But I think one of the first questions that I got from the community was, how many drivable vehicles are in the game? Very specific, very going all in immediately.
I think let me say something to this, and you can add that. Calling back to what I mentioned before, 007 First Light is a third-person story-driven action-adventure game, and that part there in the middle is really key. Story-driven. So we're telling a real story here. There's a real, epic Bond narrative that it takes you across globe-trotting, exotic locations, meeting, great variety of characters. But from the get-go, designing and developing this game, we're working on a Bond game, the Bond IP. So taking a step back, when you look at the Bond pillars, the key pillars, the recipe, there is this sense of luxury and sophistication, of the journey and the characters, like I mentioned. But when it comes to that, vehicles is a natural part of that. So we knew that it's the game and the story that needs and wants the vehicles, and therefore we wanted to, bring that in. And on the same, in the same vein, not just like any vehicle, because we're dealing with Bond here, because we're dealing with luxury, style, sophistication. That's why we, together with our licensors, we reached out to the Aston Martins of this world, the Jaguar Land Rovers. These are the kind of vehicles that we bring in for the reason of lifting that authenticity, of making this a true, Bond experience. And so coming back to the variety and how many, like, I don't want to go into details or spoiler, but it comes down and back to the story we're telling. So we've revealed, for example, Aleph in Mauritania, where you're going to go and meet Bavma, our epic pirate king of this kingdom of steel, stand and steel, etc. And this was just another key moment where the story kind of lent itself to, we want to have a vehicle moment here. Okay, what kind of vehicle? Something that fits the terrain, something that can go off-road, yet still has that sense of class. And that's kind of with our partners, how we ended up landing on, for example, the Land Rover Defender. So it comes back to, it's a story-based experience, and that kind of dictates what we put where, what is needed in the moment, where's the mission taking you, where's the gameplay allowing you to go. So it's a complete, whole approach kind of thing.
Nice.
Can't really spoil the number of vehicles.
Okay,
we have to leave some stuff up to the surprise. We've shown some stuff in trailers, but I think our thing that we said was you will get to enjoy vehicles on land and water.
Yes.
Very cool.
Land and water. Okay. I think you sort of answered my next question already. Will Bond drive the iconic cars like the Aston Martin, or specifically like the Aston Martin DB5 maybe?
So we don't have the DB5. We've already shown you the 1971 Aston Martin DBS V8. That was a really fun one to to put in the game and work on. We've also showed the Valhalla, of course. We have the Jaguar XJ that you've seen. And just to talk a little bit about kind of what goes into that kind of collaboration, because I think we should acknowledge that it's really unique and fun and exciting. It's not every day that a game, gets to work with real live, brand partners to this extent. And it's not just because, like I said before, it's not just because we wanted to just throw it in there. The IP kind of dictates it. Like it's par for the course. You expect this, so you get this, right? But just to speak to that, I was obviously in direct, contact and communication, helping to. That's part of my role, right? With our brand partners.
Has to
getting-
help. Has to help with the Aston Martin. He
Ah.
had to sit in the
Oh,
Aston Martin
I
and
envy
drive
you
the
so
Aston Martin.
hard.
Yeah, it's a tough gig out there.
I know. It's
Careful.
tough.
It's
It's tough, you know, like Omega, all these fun.
yeah.
It's amazing.
Really,
Yeah,
really,
it's
really
amazing.
it's a hero over here.
No, but seriously, also just back to our team of artists, like they did a fantastic job. You know, like we get the files from the licensors, and then we get these 3D files. Our team takes it, makes magic with it, 3D models it, textures it, rigs it, animates it. We share it back, we get feedback. It's a really close collaboration, just as with the main game and our main licensors. We work very closely with all our brand partners, and it's just so exciting to see how everybody is so enthusiastic about this. Everybody is so happy to also just to be a part of the project, be part of the legacy. It's really kind of like a mutual, like, wow, guys, we're doing this, and yeah, it's really fun.
Well, we all saw the on the web shop, the Corgi model.
Oh yeah, of course.
That was great. That was
Merch.
Merch. Back to merch. Like seeing
It's
that.
already sold
and-
out, I think,
Yeah, I
as
mean,
well.
is it really?
I think so.
Oh,
I'm not
wow.
sure yet.
It's a beautiful car, right?
Yeah.
And then we get to put our spin on it, and we
Yeah,
got some
yeah.
artists who just did awesome work on it, and then to see it in physical, like that was just very cool. It was very like giddy to see that kind of come to life. That was
Yeah.
just bizarre and weird and cool. And
It is so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also just like meeting all these people in person, and seeing their own enthusiasm for their legacy becoming part of our legacy. It's really cool.
yeah,
I have one question. I know we talked about the implementation of driving scenes and general car and transportation scenes in the game. Since we want to focus on the story, base serve the purpose of telling the story. But more gameplay specific, will we have a vehicle testing or free drive area in the game so we can play
I mean,
around?
it's not a free driving area. It's not open world in that sense. Again, we're trying to tell the story. So our driving segments are usually used for cool pacing. It's intro to missions, or it's a chase as we've seen before, right? So when we feel it fits into the pacing of the story and the overall pacing of the missions, that's where there can come a driving segment in there. In terms of training, I mean, you go through training on in Malta, and then there's a little bit of driving there.
Okay.
So you
so
do
okay.
test your driving skills there.
Okay, that helps. Okay, then let's leave the driving part. Let's head over to. I think actually, I have another question. No, yes, I have. Can we dive a bit more into the progression regarding the gameplay skills of Bond, as in his combat skills? What kind of combat skills does Bond have in hand-to-hand combat? We saw a bit and we touched a bit about it, but can we say what are the combat skills of Bond?
Oh, well, there's a few there. Yes, so you can strike, of course. You can parry. You can sidestep, as we call it, or dodge, as it's been named also. You can grab people in various different ways. You can grab them and knee them in the stomach. You can grab them and throw them to the side, to any direction that you want. Actually, you can also grab them and run with them into the environment, and that. And then on top of that, you just use the environment a lot. So you're usually close to either desk counters or walls or something like that, and all our strikes and grabs and things like that can be contextual in that sense. So if there's a countertop nearby, it's a good chance you'll slam the head of your enemy into that countertop, for instance. And you can plan your attacks when you get a little bit used to it, and so that's like the natural progression of the player getting better at the game, right? You learn the basic skills in the early training, and then as you meet more and more enemies, of course, you get more used to them and start throwing them over railings to dispose of them faster, or throwing them into electrical things that can fry them quicker and things like that, right? So,
And speaking of throwing things and using the environment, there's nothing as fun and disrespectful to your enemy as standing next to like a pool table or billiard table, whatever you call it, and just like grabbing that ball, chucking it at the guy. You know, Bond improvises. He's fast on his feet, so he uses his environment around him. If there's something grabbable or throwable, you better believe that enemy's going to get in the face, you know. So you work quick on your feet. You know, there's various ways as well where some enemies might be trying to block, and then you can actually break their block. You know, so there's as he's mentioning, this is all even in the menu, in the tutorial, in the training. All of that is there for you when you get your hands on the game, so you can really experiment and try the variety. I love one of the things that we showed in a previous gameplay trailer, where the grab running and the grab rush becomes like a break your fall on top of a guy. And
That's rough. Yeah.
Yeah, it was on the airfield, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, so it's that's another thing that I think coming out of the previews that we just heard a lot of praise and gratitude from the people that have been playing it, is how contextual the combat is as well. Like you was mentioning, anything around you, you know, Bond will kind of use to defeat his enemy. It's very, very high impact, very visceral. So yeah, there's a lot to play around with.
Well, I mean, you still have to be aware of your environments. Like you can grab somebody and try to knee them, but that also gives time for the enemies to maybe try to hit you, right? So be prepared and counter them when that happens, right?
It's also like who the enemy is as well, and they're bringing things like I think that's the thing where
archetypes,
it's like as you're fighting, you've got all these like moves at your disposal, and then enemies start throwing different things at you as the campaign goes. So now you need to kind of change up style a little bit, be a little bit more improvisative, maybe use the environment more on this guy. It's a little bit tougher on this fight. You'll be better off on the next one.
Maybe start using your gadgets in the middle
Yeah,
of
yeah.
punching somebody. Oh, he's a little bit tougher. You lace him in the eyes and
Don't forget your gadgets. Don't neglect them.
Or throw a smoke and get out there.
Exactly. Yeah. De-escalate. My bad.
All right, I did a triple check, and I can confirm I have answered all the questions that we collected from the community. Again, thanks for sending them in. And I think, without further ado, I would say we'll thank everybody for watching. Short naming again before we sign off.
Sure. Andreas Krog, gameplay director of 007 First Light.
Dominic Vega, audio and missions director, 007 First Light.
Tian Smith, licensing producer, having a lot of fun.
And myself, Artie, player engagement specialist or community manager, depending whatever you want. And yeah, I would say thank you everybody for watching. I'm sorry that we don't really have time to get into more details with more questions. I'm sure there are more. If there are more questions, please, we will make a second post, and as soon as we come closer to launch, or right after launch, or around launch, post-launch, we'll see if we find the perfect timing. We'll do another one of these sessions where we can talk a bit more about the game. 007 First Light, coming out May 27th. If you pre-order now, you can grab yourself a free deluxe upgrade with a lot of more skins and pre-order bonus, and also a 24-hour early access. The offer stands until the 27th, so even on the 26th, you can pre-order and get yourself immediate access to the game. Thank you everybody for watching. Thank you for participating. And yes, this is live. This is not recorded. Thanks everybody for watching, and see you guys next time.